Welcome to the English Pod community. I'm Natasha, and today's episode is all about improving your English fluency through real-life conversations. We'll explore some everyday situations, and I'll share stories that will help you practice and improve your listening and writing skills. By the end of this episode, you'll feel more confident in using English in your daily life. Before we get started, let me ask you a few questions. How comfortable are you with speaking English in real-life situations? Do you find yourself struggling to express your thoughts clearly? Or maybe you feel unsure about your pronunciation or fluency? Well, today I've got you covered in this episode. I'll tell you a few stories that will give you the chance to practice your listening skills and also help you understand how native speakers use English in everyday conversations. This will not only help you improve your listening, but also your writing skills, as you'll hear how to structure sentences naturally. And if you enjoy this episode, don't forget to press that like button to show your support. Let's jump into the first story. I remember the first time I had to explain directions to someone in English. I was at a coffee shop when a tourist came in, looking a bit lost. He asked me how to get to the nearest bus station. I could tell he was feeling a little nervous, just like I used to when speaking in English. But I decided to help him, and that's when I realized how important it is to use simple, clear language. I said, "Okay, walk straight ahead, take the first left, and the bus station will be on your right." Now, how would you respond if someone asked you for directions? Try to think about the words you'd use. Would you feel confident or unsure? It's important to remember that we don't need to use complicated words. Just keep it simple and clear. Now let's move on to another story. Last year, I had a conversation with my friend Daniel. He had just come back from a trip abroad, and we were talking about how difficult it was for him to adjust to the food and culture. He said, "It was tough at first. I was really homesick, especially because the food was so different from what I'm used to." Can you relate to Daniel's experience? Maybe you've had a similar experience when traveling to a new country or trying a new type of food. How would you explain your feelings in English? Remember, sharing your thoughts clearly is key to mastering everyday conversations. Let's try another situation. Imagine you're at a restaurant and the waiter asks you if you'd like to order dessert. You might say something like, "Yes, I'd love some chocolate cake, please." But sometimes we also get asked questions we don't expect. Like the other day, I was at a restaurant, and the waiter asked, "Would you like to try something new today, or do you prefer something familiar?" That made me think. It's not just about the food. It's about how we answer these unexpected questions. What would you say if a waiter asked you that? Could you explain why you might want something familiar or try something new? These kinds of questions are common in everyday conversations, and practicing how to answer them will make you more fluent. As we go through these examples today, I want you to think about how you would react in these situations. The more you listen and engage with these real-life scenarios, the easier it will become for you to have smooth, confident conversations in English. We are going to practice different everyday situations throughout this episode to help you master them. Another everyday situation we all face is shopping. Let me tell you a short story. Last month, I went shopping with my husband, Peter. We needed to buy some groceries for the week. When we got to the store, I realized I had forgotten the shopping list at home. Peter looked at me and said, "No problem, let's just think about what we need." We walked through the aisles, and I said, "We need some rice, chicken, and vegetables." Peter added, "Don't forget milk and bread." It turned into a fun little memory for us because we worked together to remember everything. Now think about it. If you were in that situation, how would you explain it in English? Try to describe it step by step, using simple sentences like, "I need to buy rice, I also need chicken," helps you speak clearly and naturally. Let's move to another real-life conversation. Last weekend, my neighbor, Mr. Thomas, knocked on our door. He said, "Hi, Natasha, I'm going away for a few days. Could you please water my plants while I'm gone? I smiled and said, Of course, I'd be happy to help. Then he showed me where the plants were and explained how often to water them. It was a simple conversation, but it made me realize how important it is to listen carefully and ask questions if you are not sure. If you were in my place, what would you say to Mr. Thomas? Maybe something like, Sure, I can do that. How often? Should I water them? Practicing these kinds of friendly exchanges will make your English much stronger. Now let's imagine another daily conversation. Last Friday, I was at the bakery near my house. The lady at the counter, Mrs. Carter, said, Good morning. What can I get for you today? I answered, Good morning. I'd like a loaf of whole wheat bread, please. Then she asked, Would you like anything else? I thought for a moment and said, Yes, I'll take 6 eggs too. See how natural and polite that conversation was? When you are ordering something, it's good to be friendly and clear. Use short, polite phrases like, I'd like, or could I have? This way, people will understand you easily, and you will sound more confident. Let's go to another example. A few days ago, I called a plumber because there was a leak in the kitchen sink. His name was Mr. Wilson. On the phone, I said, Hello, my name is Natasha. I have a leak under my kitchen sink. Could you please come and take a look? Mr. Wilson replied, Of course, Natasha. I can come tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Does that work for you? I answered, Yes, that works perfectly. Thank you so much. In these situations, speaking clearly and giving important information is very helpful. Notice how I said my name, the problem, and asked politely. Practicing small conversations like these will make your English conversations in real life much easier. Now think about this. If you had to call a plumber or electrician, could you explain the problem in English? Take a moment and imagine how you would start the conversation. Practicing these small moments in your head will help you feel ready when they happen in real life. Let's dive into another real-life situation that can really help you practice English in a natural way. Last month, I had an interesting experience at a local market. It was a Saturday morning, and I decided to go to the farmer's market to buy some fresh fruits and vegetables. When I arrived, the market was busy. People were walking around, talking, and buying fresh food. I walked up to a stall where an older man named Mr. Harris was selling apples and oranges. I said, Good morning, how are you today? Mr. Harris smiled warmly and said, Good morning, I'm doing well, thank you. How about you? I answered, I'm good, thank you. These apples look really fresh. How much are they? He replied, They're $2 per pound, very sweet this season. I thought for a moment and said, I'll take 3 pounds, please. As he was weighing the apples, he asked, Do you live nearby? I said. Yes, just a few streets away. I come here every weekend. He smiled and said, It's always nice to see familiar faces. Enjoy your apples. This short and friendly conversation is exactly the kind of real-life English you need to practice. It's polite, simple, and very natural. When you are in these situations, start by greeting the person, ask a clear question, and answer politely. You don't need long sentences. Just a few simple phrases will make the conversation smooth and easy. Now let's imagine another example. A few weeks ago, I had to visit the doctor for a regular checkup. The receptionist, Miss Julia, welcomed me with a smile and said, Good morning. Do you have an appointment? I said, Good morning. Yes, I have an appointment with Dr. Anderson at 10 a.m. She nodded and said, Great, please have a seat. The doctor will call you shortly. After a few minutes, Dr. Anderson called my name. He said, Good morning, Natasha. How are you feeling today? I replied, Good morning, doctor. I'm feeling fine. Just here for my yearly checkup. He asked a few simple questions like, Any pain? Any changes in your health? I answered honestly and simply. After the checkup, he said, everything. Looks good. Keep doing what you're doing. I thanked him and left feeling relieved. This is another common real-life conversation. Visiting the doctor can make some people nervous, especially in another language. But again, using polite greetings, clear answers, and short sentences helps everything go smoothly. Now, imagine yourself at a post office. This happened to me 2 weeks ago. I needed to send a small package to my cousin Robert, who lives in another city. I walked into the post office and the clerk, Mr. Allen, said, "Good afternoon. How can I help you?" I said, "Good afternoon. I would like to send this package to Chicago, please." He smiled and asked, "Would you like standard shipping or express?" I thought for a moment and replied, "Standard shipping, please." Then he weighed the package and said, "It will cost $5. I paid and he handed me a receipt. I said, "Thank you very much, have a nice day." And he replied, "You too." Simple, right? This is the kind of English you use every day when you live in an English-speaking country, or even when you travel. Practicing these small exchanges makes you feel more confident and natural. Let's do another example together. Imagine you are at a bakery again. A lady named Mrs. Green is at the counter. She says, "Hello, what can I get for you today?" You could respond, "Hello, I'd like 6 dinner rolls and 1 loaf of white bread, please." She might ask, "Would you like anything else?" You could say, "No, that's all for today. Thank you." Then she tells you the total price. You pay, and you both exchange polite goodbyes. Even though these conversations are short, they are very important. They build your confidence and help you speak without fear. And when you practice these dialogues often, they become automatic for you. Let's go even deeper into a situation you might face at work. Suppose you are working in an office, and your colleague, Mr. Clark, asks you, "Hi, Natasha, can you help me with this report?" You could answer, "Sure, Mr. Clark. What do you need help with?" He might say, "I need someone to review it for mistakes." You could then say, "Of course, I'll read it carefully and let you know if I find anything." Later, after checking the report, you could say, "Mr. Clark, I finished reviewing it. I found a few small mistakes and corrected them." He would likely reply, "Thank you, Natasha. I appreciate your help." Notice how simple and respectful this work conversation is. You do not need to use big, complicated words. Just focus on being clear, polite, and helpful. These are the keys to mastering everyday English conversations at work. And here's another situation. Imagine you are inviting your neighbor, Mrs. Adams, for a cup of tea. You could say, "Good afternoon, Mrs. Adams. Would you like to come over for a cup of tea?" She might smile and say, "Thank you, Natasha. I would love to." Then you could say, "Wonderful, please come around 4 p.m. I'll prepare some snacks too." When she arrives, you greet her warmly, offer her a seat, and enjoy a friendly conversation. Being able to invite someone politely and chat with them in a relaxed way is a great skill. It shows kindness and friendliness, and practicing these small conversations will really boost your English fluency. Now let's imagine a full day where you use English in many different situations. I want you to really picture it in your mind, step by step, like you are living it. This way, you will get even more practice in thinking and speaking naturally. Let's start with the morning. You wake up early because today is an important day. You need to go to the dentist for a regular checkup, meet a friend for lunch, do some shopping, and visit your cousin David. First, you go into the kitchen and see your husband Daniel making breakfast. He says, "Good morning, did you sleep well?" You smile and reply, "Good morning. Yes, I slept very well. Thank you. How about you?" He answers, "I slept fine too. I made you some toast and eggs." You say, "Thank you so much, Daniel. That's very kind of you." You eat breakfast together and talk about your plans for the day. Daniel asks, "Do you want me to drive you to the dentist?" You reply, Thank you, but it's okay. I'll take a taxi. After breakfast, you get ready and call a taxi service. You say on the phone, "Hello, this is Natasha. I need a taxi to the Main Street Dental Clinic, please." The lady on the phone replies, "Of course, a taxi will arrive in 10 minutes. You thank her and wait outside. The taxi arrives and the driver, Mr. Carter, says, "Good morning, where to?" You reply, "Good morning, please take me to Main Street Dental Clinic." During the ride, Mr. Carter asks, "Is it your first time visiting that clinic?" You answer, "No, I go there every 6 months for a checkup." Mr. Carter smiles and says, "It's good to take care of your teeth." You agree. Yes, health is very important. When you arrive, you thank the driver, pay the fare, and walk into the clinic. At the front desk, Miss Laura welcomes you with a bright smile. "Good morning. Do you have an appointment?" she asks. You reply, "Good morning. Yes, I have an appointment with Dr. Evans at 9:30 a.m. She checks the computer and says, "Perfect. Please have a seat. The doctor will call you soon." After a few minutes, Dr. Evans comes out and says, "Good morning, Natasha. Come on in." You walk into the office and he asks, "Any problems with your teeth lately?" You answer, "No, everything feels fine. I just want to make sure everything is healthy." Dr. Evans does the checkup and says, "Your teeth look great. Keep brushing and flossing every day." You smile and say, "Thank you, doctor. I will." After the dentist, it's time to meet your friend, Sarah, for lunch. You walk to a nearby cafe. When you enter, Sarah waves and says, "Hi, Natasha. Over here." You walk over and say, "Hi, Sarah. It's so good to see you." You sit down, and a waitress named Emma comes to your table. She says, "Good afternoon. Can I get you something to drink?" You smile and say, "Yes, I'll have a glass of water, please." Sarah says, "I'll have some orange juice, please." Emma brings your drinks and asks, "Are you ready to order?" You look at the menu and say, "Yes, I'll have the chicken salad, please." Sarah says, "I'll take the vegetable soup." Emma writes everything down and says, "Your food will be ready soon." While waiting, you and Sarah chat about your lives. Sarah says, "My husband, John, got a promotion at work last week." You reply, "That's amazing news, Sarah. Congratulations to him." Then you tell her about your day and the dentist visit. You both laugh and enjoy your conversation. After lunch, you say goodbye to Sarah and head to the shopping mall. You want to buy a birthday gift for your cousin, David. At the mall, you enter a bookstore. A friendly salesman, Mr. Brown, greets you. "Good afternoon. Can I help you find anything?" You reply, "Yes, I'm looking for a gift for my cousin. He loves history books." Mr. Brown smiles and says, "Let me show you our history section." He leads you to a shelf filled with interesting books. You pick a book titled "The Great Leaders of History" and say, "This looks perfect. Thank you for your help." Mr. Brown replies, "My pleasure. I hope he enjoys it." You pay for the book, thank Mr. Brown again, and leave the store. You check the time and see that it's almost 3 p.m. Time to visit David. You take a taxi to his house. When you arrive, David opens the door with a big smile. "Hey, Natasha, come on in," he says. You hand him the gift and say, "Happy early birthday, David." He laughs and says, "Thank you so much. Come, let's sit and talk." You sit in the living room and have a long chat. David talks about his new job. He says, "I started working at a new company last month. It's going well so far." You listen carefully and ask, "What do you like most about your new job?" David answers, "I like the team. Everyone is very friendly and supportive." You nod and say, "That's wonderful. It's so important to have good colleagues." After some time, you realize it's getting late. You stand up and say, "David, I had a great time, but I should head home now." David smiles and says, "Thank you again for the gift, Natasha. Let's meet again soon." You say, "Of course. Take care," and wave goodbye. On your way home, you think about all the little conversations you had today. With Daniel at breakfast, with the taxi driver, at the dentist, at lunch with Sarah, at the bookstore with Mr. Brown, and with David. Each conversation was simple, polite, and real. This is exactly the kind of English you need to master for everyday life. Every small conversation helps you get better. When you practice speaking clearly, listening carefully, asking polite questions, and answering simply, your English fluency grows step by step. You do not need to rush. Now let's imagine more real-life moments where you can practice and improve your English naturally, just like today's story. Remember, the goal is to become comfortable using English in simple, everyday conversations. After you return home from visiting David, you sit down in your living room to relax. You think, maybe I should organize the house a little before dinner. You walk to the living room and notice some books and papers scattered on the coffee table. You start picking them up and organizing them neatly. As you do this, your neighbor, Mr. Wilson, rings the doorbell. You open the door and smile. "Good evening, Mr. Wilson. How are you?" you ask. He smiles back and says, "Good evening, Natasha. I'm doing well, thank you. I just wanted to bring you some homemade cookies my wife baked today." You are surprised and happy. "Wow, thank you so much. That's very kind of you and your wife," you say warmly. Mr. Wilson hands you a small box and says, "We made extra and thought you might enjoy them." You thank him again and say, "Please tell your wife that the cookies look delicious. I'll enjoy them with some tea tonight." Mr. Wilson laughs and says, "I will. Have a good evening." You reply, "You too, Mr. Wilson." After closing the door, you bring the cookies into the kitchen. You make yourself a cup of tea and sit by the window. As you enjoy the cookies, you think about practicing your writing skills too. You decide to write a short thank you note for Mr. and Mrs. Wilson. You take a small card and write, "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, thank you very much for the delicious cookies. They made my evening extra sweet. I really appreciate your kindness. Best wishes, Natasha." The next day, you go outside to take a walk in the park. The sun is shining and the air is fresh. While walking, you see a woman trying to carry 2 heavy bags. You quickly walk over and say, "Excuse me, would you like some help with your bags?" The woman looks relieved and says, "Oh, yes, please. Thank you so much." You help her carry the bags to a bench nearby. She sits down and introduces herself. "My name is Linda. Thank you again for your help." You smile and say, "It's no problem at all, Linda. My name is Natasha. It's nice to meet you." Linda and you start chatting. She tells you, "I just moved to this neighborhood last week. Everything is new to me." You reply kindly, "Welcome to the neighborhood. I live just around the corner. If you need anything, feel free to ask." Linda smiles warmly and says, "That's very sweet. Maybe you can suggest some good places to shop or eat?" You nod and say, "Of course. There's a great bakery on Oak Street. And the grocery store nearby has everything you might need." As you finish talking, you realize that small conversations like these are very important. Helping someone, offering kind words, and giving simple information are part of everyday English. You didn't need big, difficult words. You just needed to be kind, clear, and polite. Later that afternoon, you decide to visit the local library. You enjoy reading, and you also know it's a great way to improve your vocabulary. At the library, you meet Mr. Johnson, the librarian. He smiles and says, "Good afternoon. Can I help you find something?" You say, "Good afternoon. I'm looking for some books to practice English conversation skills." Mr. Johnson says, "That's a great idea. We have a whole section with English practice books. Follow me." He shows you a shelf with many helpful books. You pick up one called Everyday English Conversations and say, "This looks perfect. Thank you for your help, Mr. Johnson." He replies, "You're welcome." Reading short dialogues and practicing them out loud can really help your fluency. You borrow the book and go home. That evening, you sit at your desk and open the book. You find a simple conversation between two neighbors. Tom: "Hi, Emily. How are you today?" Emily: "Hi, Tom. I'm good, thank you. How about you?" Tom: "I'm doing well. Are you free this Saturday? We're having a small barbecue at our house." Emily: "That sounds lovely. I'll be there. Thank you for inviting me." You read the dialogue out loud a few times, practicing the natural flow of the conversation. You even imagine your own dialogue with your neighbor, Mr. Wilson, using similar phrases. The next day, you see Mr. Wilson watering his garden. You wave and say, "Good morning, Mr. Wilson. The garden looks beautiful today." He smiles and replies, "Good morning, Natasha. Thank you. It's the good weather that helps." You continue, "Are you planning to plant anything new this season?" Mr. Wilson says, "Yes, I'm thinking about adding some tomatoes and cucumbers." You smile and say, "That sounds wonderful. I hope you have a great harvest." Simple conversations like this are the key to improving your everyday English. You don't need to use big or complicated sentences. Just being friendly, polite, and curious makes conversations natural and easy. In the evening, your husband Daniel comes home from work. You greet him warmly. "Welcome home, Daniel. How was your day?" He smiles and says, "It was good, but busy. How about you?" You tell him about meeting Linda at the park, visiting the library, and practicing English conversations. Daniel listens carefully and says, "I'm proud of you for practicing every day. You're getting better and better." Later that night, you and Daniel sit down to plan the weekend. Daniel says, "Maybe we can visit the countryside on Saturday. It would be nice to get some fresh air." You reply, "That sounds like a great idea. I'll prepare some sandwiches and water for the trip." You both smile and continue talking about your plans. The next morning, you wake up early and get ready for your trip to the countryside. As you pack the sandwiches, you practice talking to yourself in English. You say, "I need to pack the sandwiches, water bottles, some fruits, and a small blanket." Speaking to yourself like this is another excellent way to practice. Even when you are alone, you can practice naming objects, describing actions, and making small sentences. When you and Daniel arrive at the countryside, you are amazed by the beautiful green fields and fresh air. You find a nice spot under a big tree and set out your picnic blanket. As you eat, a family nearby starts playing with a ball. Their little daughter drops the ball near you. She runs over and says shyly, "Excuse me, can I have my ball, please?" You smile warmly, pick up the ball, and say, "Here you go." She says, "Thank you," and runs back to her family. Daniel smiles and says, "You're practicing English even during a picnic." Later in the day, you and Daniel decide to go for a short walk. You see some beautiful flowers and trees. Daniel points to a big oak tree and says, "Look at that tree. It must be very old." You reply, "Yes, it looks so strong and tall. I wonder how many years it has been standing here." Simple observations like this help you practice speaking naturally without pressure. As you walk, you meet an older couple sitting on a bench. They smile and say, "Good afternoon." You smile back and say, "Good afternoon. It's a lovely day, isn't it?" They nod and reply, "It's perfect for a nice walk." You chat with them for a few minutes about the beauty of the countryside and the peaceful weather. On the way back home, you feel happy and confident. You realize that every small moment you used English today helped you build fluency. You spoke with Mr. Wilson, practiced dialogues from the library book, talked with Daniel, and even chatted with new people during your countryside trip. It is important to remember that English learning is not only about studying grammar or doing homework. Real progress comes from using English in small, real situations every day. Speaking kindly, asking questions, answering politely, and being a good listener all help you become a better English speaker. That evening, after returning home from the countryside trip, you feel refreshed and happy. You sit down in your living room with a notebook and a pen. You think to yourself, today was a great day to practice English naturally. You decide to write down everything you did today, like a small diary entry. This helps you practice your writing and organize your thoughts in English. You begin writing, "Today, Daniel and I went to the countryside. The weather was sunny and fresh. We had a picnic under a big oak tree. We met a kind family and spoke to an older couple who were enjoying the day. It was a perfect day to relax and use my English skills." As you write, you realize that describing your real experiences in English is not only good for your writing, but also strengthens your memory of the vocabulary you used. You remember new words like picnic, blanket, countryside, and oak tree. You smile and feel proud of your progress. The next morning, you decide to visit the small farmers market in your town. It's a great place to practice simple conversations. You walk through the market, enjoying the smell of fresh vegetables and fruits. You see a stand selling strawberries. The seller, Mr. Carter, smiles at you and says, "Good morning. Would you like some fresh strawberries today?" You smile back and reply, "Good morning. Yes, they look delicious. How much for one basket?" Mr. Carter says, "Only $3 for a basket." You nod and say, "I'll take one, please." While he prepares the basket, you continue the conversation. "These strawberries look very fresh. Are they from a local farm?" Mr. Carter nods proudly and says, "Yes, they are picked this morning from my farm just a few miles from here." You say, "That's wonderful. Thank you for growing such fresh fruits." He smiles and says, "You're welcome. Enjoy them." After buying the strawberries, you walk around the market more. You see another stand with homemade honey. The woman at the stand, Mrs. Baker, greets you warmly. "Hello, would you like to try some natural honey?" she asks. You smile and say, "Hello, yes, I would love to." She offers you a small spoonful to taste. You try it and say, "Wow, it's very sweet and pure." Mrs. Baker says, "Thank you. My husband and I keep bees on our farm." You say, "That's amazing. I think I'll buy a jar." She smiles brightly and says, "Thank you for supporting local farms." As you walk back home, carrying your strawberries and honey, you feel happy that you had 2 good conversations in English without any pressure. You realize that speaking with shopkeepers, farmers, and neighbors is one of the best ways to practice. It feels natural and builds your confidence step by step. Later that day, your friend Oliver calls you. He says, "Hi, Natasha. Would you like to join us for a walk in the park this afternoon?" You think for a moment and say, "That sounds nice. Who is coming?" Oliver replies, "Just a few friends from the neighborhood like Sarah and Peter." You say, "Great. I'll meet you at the park entrance at 4 p.m. At 4 p.m., you arrive at the park and see Oliver, Sarah, and Peter waiting. You greet them warmly. "Hi, everyone. It's a beautiful day for a walk." They all agree, and you start walking together. During the walk, you have small conversations. Sarah says, "I love how the trees are so green now." You reply, "Yes, everything. Looks so alive after the rain we had last week." Peter adds, "It's the perfect season to be outdoors." While walking, Peter tells a funny story about his dog chasing a squirrel at the park. Everyone laughs. You listen carefully and respond, "That must have been so funny to watch. Dogs are so playful." Peter nods and says, "Yes, he's full of energy. I can barely keep up with him." These small group conversations help you practice listening to different voices and answering naturally. You notice that sometimes people speak faster or slower, but you stay calm and focus on understanding the main ideas. You also practice giving short comments and asking simple questions, which keeps the conversation flowing naturally. After the walk, you sit together on a bench. Sarah asks, "Natasha, how are your English lessons going?" You smile and say, "They're going well. I try to practice every day by speaking with friends, neighbors, and even strangers at the market." Oliver says, "That's the best way to learn. Practice makes everything easier." Peter agrees and says, "When I learned French, I used to practice by talking to taxi drivers and shop owners. Simple conversations helped me a lot." You nod and say, "Yes, I believe small conversations are very powerful. They make me feel more confident every day." Later in the evening, after coming home, you sit down with Daniel for dinner. You tell him all about your day at the market and your walk in the park. Daniel listens and says, "You had so many chances to use your English today. I'm very happy to see your progress." You smile and say, "Thank you. It feels good to use English in real life, not just study from books." After dinner, you and Daniel sit in the living room. You practice a simple role play together. Daniel says, "Let's pretend we are at a bakery and you have to order something." You smile and say, "Sounds fun." Daniel pretends to be the bakery clerk and says, "Good morning, how can I help you today?" You reply, "Good morning. I would like to buy a loaf of bread and 2 croissants, please." Daniel continues, "Sure. Anything else?" You say, "No, thank you. How much is it?" Daniel says, "It's $5. You reply, "Here you go. Thank you very much." Daniel says, "You're welcome. Have a great day." After the role play, you both laugh and feel happy. You realize that practicing real-life situations like this makes it easier to speak naturally when you are really outside, at a bakery or a store. The next day, you decide to practice asking for directions. You take a short walk around your neighborhood and stop at a small corner shop. You greet the shopkeeper, Mr. Brown, and say, "Good afternoon. Can you please tell me how to get to the post office?" Mr. Brown smiles and says, "Of course. Just walk straight down this road for 2 blocks, then turn right. You'll see the post office next to the bank." You listen carefully and say, "Thank you so much for your help." He replies, "You're welcome. Have a nice day." You continue walking, feeling more confident. You realize that asking for help, directions, or information is a great way to practice speaking English in real, helpful ways. It also makes you feel more connected to your community. When you reach the post office, you decide to mail a small letter to your cousin, Emily, who lives in another city. You walk inside and greet the clerk, Mr. Thomas, by saying, "Good afternoon. I would like to send a letter, please." Mr. Thomas smiles and says, "Sure. Where would you like to send it?" You reply, "To Springfield, please." He processes your letter and says, "That will be $1. You pay, thank him, and say, "Have a great day." Mr. Thomas smiles and says, "You too." As you leave the post office, you feel very proud. In one short afternoon, you practiced greeting someone, asking for directions, asking for help, and having a simple service conversation. All these small actions are building your fluency naturally. On your way home, you pass by a small cafe. You see a sign that says "Open," and you decide to stop for a cup of tea. Inside, the young woman at the counter, whose name tag says Sophie, smiles and says, "Hi there. What can I get for you today?" You smile and say, "Hi, I would like a cup of green tea, please." Sophie asks, "Would you like it hot or iced?" You say, "Hot, please." She prepares the tea and says, "That will be $2." You pay and say, "Thank you. The cafe looks very cozy." Sophie smiles and says, "Thank you. We try to make it a comfortable place for everyone." You take your tea and sit by the window. As you sip your tea, you look around and enjoy the warm atmosphere. You think about how every conversation today, big or small, gave you a chance to practice English. You feel more confident with each word you say. While sitting there, you open your notebook again and write down the new phrases you used today. How can I help you today? How much is it? Can you tell me how to get to the post office? Have a nice day. You practice reading them out loud quietly to yourself. Speaking, listening, reading, and writing. You are using all parts of the English language, and it is making you stronger every day. As you finish your tea, you smile and feel grateful. Learning English is not something you have to rush. It's a journey, and every conversation, every small effort, is one step closer to fluency. You leave the cozy cafe feeling warm and full of energy. The day is not over yet, and you want to keep practicing your English. As you walk down the street, you notice a small bookstore. In the window, there is a sign that says, "New books just arrived." You decide to go inside. The bookstore smells like fresh paper and coffee. It is quiet and peaceful. A man behind the counter, whose name tag says Mr. Lewis, smiles and says, "Hello, welcome to our bookstore. Let me know if you need any help." You smile and reply, "Thank you. I'm just looking around for now." You walk between the shelves looking at all the colorful covers. You find a section called Easy Readers for Beginners. This section has books written in simple English, and you feel excited. You pick up a book titled A Day in the Life of Emily. The sentences are short and easy to understand. You read the first few pages standing there. You think, "This is perfect for me to practice reading in English." You take the book to the counter. Mr. Lewis says, "Did you find something you like?" You answer, "Yes, this book looks great for practicing my English." Mr. Lewis smiles and says, "Good choice. If you like it, we also have more like this in the back." You say, "Thank you, I'll start with this one first." You pay for the book, and Mr. Lewis puts it carefully in a small paper bag. You say, "Thanks very much, have a nice day." And he replies, "You too, happy reading." As you walk home with your new book, you feel proud of yourself again. You had another natural conversation, and you also found a tool to help you learn even more. You realize that using English in small everyday activities, like shopping or asking questions, is making your English stronger and stronger without feeling stressed. When you get home, you sit on your sofa with a cup of tea and open your new book. You start reading slowly. Emily wakes up early. She brushes her teeth. She eats breakfast and drinks coffee. You notice that the sentences are simple, but they use real English that people say every day. You practice reading the sentences out loud, focusing on speaking clearly. After reading for about an hour, you decide to practice speaking a little more. You stand in front of a mirror and practice talking about your day in English, just like you are telling a friend. You say, "Today I went to a bookstore. I bought a book to practice English. The man at the bookstore was very kind. I had a nice day." Speaking in front of the mirror helps you practice without feeling nervous. You watch your mouth move and make sure you pronounce each word clearly. Later, your neighbor, Mrs. White, knocks on your door. She smiles and says, "Hi, Natasha. I just baked some cookies. Would you like to come over for some tea?" You feel a little nervous, but you say, "Hi, Mrs. White. That sounds lovely. Thank you very much. I'll be there in a minute." You quickly fix your hair and walk next door. Mrs. White's house smells like fresh cookies. You sit down at her kitchen table and she pours you a cup of tea. She says, "How was your day?" You smile and reply, "It was good." I went to the farmer's market, took a walk in the park, visited the post office, stopped at a cafe, and even bought a book from the bookstore. Mrs. White laughs warmly and says, "Wow, you had a busy day. It sounds wonderful." She offers you a cookie and you say, "Thank you, it smells delicious." Mrs. White smiles proudly and says, "It's a family recipe. My grandmother taught me when I was young." You ask, "What's the secret ingredient?" Mrs. White leans in and says, "Love, and a little bit of cinnamon." You both laugh together. As you eat your cookie and sip your tea, you realize you are speaking English for a long time without even thinking about it. You are relaxed, and the conversation feels natural. Mrs. White talks about her garden, and you listen carefully, asking small questions like, "What flowers do you grow?" and "How long have you been gardening?" She tells you about her roses, her sunflowers, and how much she loves taking care of her plants. You nod and say, "That sounds so peaceful. I would love to have a small garden one day." Mrs. White says, "You should. Even one or two plants can make you happy." Before you leave, Mrs. White packs some extra cookies for you and says, "Come visit me anytime you want to practice English." You feel so happy and thankful. You say, "Thank you, Mrs. White. I really appreciate it. You are very kind." She smiles and says, "You're doing great, Natasha. Keep practicing and you'll be fluent." Before you know it, you walk home with a big smile and a bag of warm cookies. That night, you write in your notebook again, describing your conversation with Mrs. White. You write, "Today I had tea with my neighbor. We talked about gardens and baking. I listened carefully and spoke clearly. I felt happy and confident." You realize that real conversations are better than any textbook. They help you use real English, listen to real speech, and think naturally in English. You also see that people are kind and patient, and they are happy to talk with you when you try. The next morning, you feel excited to keep practicing. You make a list of simple goals for the day. Say hello to 3 people. Ask 1 question in English. Try to have a small conversation if possible. Listen carefully and speak slowly and clearly. You get dressed and head out to a nearby park again. On your way, you see an older man sitting on a bench feeding the birds. His name is Mr. Harris. You wave and say, "Good morning, Mr. Harris." He smiles warmly and says, "Good morning, Natasha. Beautiful day, isn't it?" You reply, "Yes, it's perfect. The sun is shining and the birds are happy." Mr. Harris pats the bench next to him and says, "Come sit down for a moment." You sit next to him and he tells you about how he comes to the park every morning to feed the birds. You listen carefully, sometimes asking simple questions like, "Do the birds know you?" and "How long have you been doing this?" Mr. Harris laughs and says, "I think they know me by now. I've been feeding them for over 10 years. You say, "That's amazing. It's a beautiful tradition." Talking to Mr. Harris feels easy. He speaks slowly and clearly, and you can understand everything. You enjoy the conversation and learn new phrases like morning routine and feeding the birds. After talking for about 20 minutes, you say, "I have to go now, but it was so nice talking with you." Mr. Harris smiles and says, "It was nice talking with you too, Natasha. Have a great day." You wave goodbye and continue your walk. You feel so proud because you completed your goals for the day. You greeted people, asked questions, and had a natural conversation. Your confidence is growing every day, and your English is improving without even realizing it. You decide to treat yourself with a small reward. You stop by a little bakery on the corner. Inside, a young woman named Emma welcomes you and says, "Hello, what can I get for you today?" You smile and say, "Hello, I would like a small loaf of bread, please." Emma asks, "Would you like white bread or whole wheat?" You think for a moment and say, "Whole wheat, please." As she wraps the bread, you ask, "Is the bread baked here?" Emma says, "Yes, we bake everything fresh every morning." You smile and say, "That's wonderful. I can smell how fresh it is." She laughs and says, "Yes, the smell of fresh bread is the best." You both laugh and you pay for your bread. As you leave the bakery, you feel even more confident. These little conversations are adding up. They are teaching you not just English words, but how to use them naturally and comfortably with different people. Every hello, every thank you, and every simple question is a brick in the strong wall of your English ability. You walk home, thinking about all the people you spoke with today, Mr. Harris at the park, Emma at the bakery, and you feel proud. You realize that practicing English in real life is like building a beautiful garden, one seed at a time, one conversation at a time. And every day your garden grows bigger and more beautiful. When you arrive home, you sit down with your notebook again and write, "Today I spoke with Mr. Harris and Emma. I practiced greeting people, asking questions, and having friendly conversations. I feel happy and excited to continue tomorrow." You know that tomorrow will bring even more chances to practice, and you are ready for every opportunity. Your English journey is not a race. The next morning, you wake up feeling even more motivated. You stretch your arms, make a cup of tea, and sit by your window. The sun is shining, and the street outside is starting to get busy. You watch as people walk by. A man walking his dog, a woman pushing a stroller, a group of school children laughing together. You think to yourself, today is another great chance to practice English in real life. You decide to make a full plan for the day. You take out your notebook and write down your simple English goals. Practice greeting at least 5 people. Try to start 2 small conversations. Ask polite questions in English. Listen carefully and answer naturally. Use new phrases you learned from reading. You get ready for the day, putting on comfortable clothes and your favorite shoes. As you step outside, the fresh morning air fills your lungs. You smile, feeling positive and excited about what the day will bring. First, you decide to go to the local library. You have not visited it yet, but you heard from your neighbor, Mrs. White, that it is a friendly place. You walk down the street, enjoying the simple beauty around you. Trees moving in the breeze, birds singing, and friendly faces passing by. As you reach the library, you see a big glass door with a welcome sign. You push it open and step inside. The library is quiet and peaceful. There are rows of bookshelves, soft chairs, and big windows that let in lots of light. At the front desk, you see a young man named Daniel. He is arranging some books on the counter. When he looks up, he gives you a big smile and says, "Good morning. Welcome to the library. How can I help you today?" You feel a little nervous, but remember your goals. You take a deep breath and say, "Good morning. I'm new here. I would like to get a library card, please." Daniel nods and says, "Of course. It's very easy. Just fill out this form and show me some ID." He hands you a small form and a pen. You sit down at a nearby table and start filling out the form. It asks for simple information: your name, address, and phone number. You write carefully, making sure everything is clear. When you finish, you return to the desk and hand it to Daniel along with your ID. He types your information into the computer and says, "All done. Here's your library card. Now you can borrow books anytime you like." You smile and say, "Thank you very much, Daniel. I'm excited to read more English books." Daniel replies, "That's great. If you need any book suggestions for beginners, just ask me." You say, "Thank you, I will definitely ask." Feeling proud, you walk through the library looking for interesting books. You find a section called English for Beginners and pick out a book titled Simple Conversations in English. You also find a small book about daily life vocabulary. You borrow both books and leave the library with a happy heart. As you step outside, you see an older woman sitting on a bench reading a newspaper. She looks friendly. You remember your goal to greet people, so you smile and say, "Good morning." She looks up, smiles warmly, and says, "Good morning, dear." Feeling encouraged, you decide to start a small conversation. You say, It's a beautiful day, isn't it? She nods and says, Yes, it's lovely. The sunshine feels so nice after the rainy days. You listen carefully and respond, Yes, I love sunny days. They make me feel happy and full of energy. She smiles and says, Me too. I'm Mrs. Parker, by the way. You smile and say, Nice to meet you, Mrs. Parker. I'm Natasha. Mrs. Parker asks, Are you new to this neighborhood? You nod and say, Yes, I moved here 2 months ago. I'm learning English, so I'm trying to practice by talking to people. Mrs. Parker's eyes light up. She says, That's wonderful. Your English is very good. Keep practicing. Talking to people is the best way to learn. You thank her and talk for a few more minutes about the town and the nearby park. You learn that Mrs. Parker has lived here for over 40 years. She tells you about the best places to visit, a small lake not far from here, a nice walking trail through the woods, and a friendly coffee shop run by a woman named Miss Green. After a lovely conversation, you say, It was so nice talking with you, Mrs. Parker. I hope to see you again soon. She smiles and says, You too, Natasha. Good luck with your English. You wave goodbye and continue your walk, feeling proud that you completed another goal. Next, you decide to visit the grocery store to practice more English. You walk into the store and grab a small basket. Inside, you see a young woman named Olivia arranging fruits and vegetables. You walk over and say, Excuse me, Olivia. Could you help me, please? Olivia smiles and says, Of course. What do you need? You say, I'm looking for fresh apples. Where can I find them? Olivia points to a nearby shelf and says, Right over there next to the oranges. You thank her and walk over to pick some apples. While choosing, you decide to start another small conversation. You pick up an apple and say, These look very fresh. Do you know which type is sweeter? Olivia walks over and says, The red apples are usually sweeter than the green ones. You smile and say, Thank you, I'll take the red ones then. Olivia says, Good choice. They're very tasty this season. You finish your shopping and head to the cashier. A young man named Benjamin is at the counter. He greets you with a friendly, Hello. You reply, Hi, how are you today? Benjamin says, I'm good, thanks. And you? You say, I'm good too, thank you. As he scans your items, you decide to practice a little more English. You say, It's my first time shopping here, the store is very nice. Benjamin smiles and says, Thank you, we try to keep everything fresh and organized. Welcome to the neighborhood. You pay for your groceries, thank Benjamin, and leave the store with a big smile. You realize that with every small conversation, you are getting stronger. You are using real English in real life, and it feels natural and exciting. Walking home with your groceries, you think about all the people you spoke to today. Daniel at the library, Mrs. Parker at the park, Olivia at the fruit section, and Benjamin at the cashier. You are building your English skills one friendly conversation at a time. When you get home, you make yourself a cup of tea and sit down at your table. You open your notebook and start writing about your day. Today I went to the library, spoke to Daniel, got my library card, and borrowed 2 books. I greeted Mrs. Parker and had a nice conversation about the weather and the town. I went to the grocery store, asked for help from Olivia, and chatted with Benjamin at the counter. I feel proud and happy. My English is getting better every day. You. Also write down new phrases you learned. Excuse me, could you help me, please? Which type is sweeter? The next morning, you wake up early, feeling excited and ready for another day of English practice. You remember how good it felt yesterday when you spoke to Daniel, Mrs. Parker, Olivia, and Benjamin. You saw that real conversations are the best way to improve. You stretch, get dressed, and eat a quick breakfast. While eating, you make a new plan for today in your notebook. Visit the post office and ask about mailing a letter. Stop by the bakery and buy some bread. Visit the flour. Shop and talk to the owner. Try to use at least 5 new English sentences. Listen carefully and answer politely. After finishing your breakfast, you leave your apartment with a big smile. The weather is a little cooler today and the streets are calm. You walk slowly, looking at all the little shops you pass by. You see the post office ahead, a small building with a big blue sign. You take a deep breath and step inside. Inside the post office, you see a friendly man behind the counter. His name tag says Mr. Carter. He smiles and says, "Good morning, how can I help you today?" You walk up to the counter and say, "Good morning, I would like to send a letter to my friend in another city. Could you please tell me what I need to do?" Mr. Carter nods and says, "Of course. First, you need an envelope and a stamp. You can buy them right here." He hands you an envelope and shows you the stamps. You say, "Thank you, how much is it?" He says, "The envelope is 50 cents and the stamp is $1. You pay for the items, write your friend's address carefully, and stick the stamp on the envelope. You hand it back to Mr. Carter, who says, "Perfect. Your letter will be on its way today." You smile and say, "Thank you very much. You are very helpful." Mr. Carter smiles warmly and says, "You're welcome. Have a great day." Feeling proud, you walk out of the post office and head toward the bakery. As you approach, you can smell the delicious scent of fresh bread and pastries. The bakery is small but very charming, with a big window showing all kinds of baked goods. You open the door and step inside. Behind the counter, you see a woman named Mrs. Davis. She looks up and says, "Good morning, welcome to Davis Bakery. What can I get for you today?" You smile and say, "Good morning, Mrs. Davis. Everything smells so good. I would like to buy a loaf of fresh bread, please." Mrs. Davis beams with pride and says, "Thank you. We just baked them this morning. Would you like white bread or whole wheat bread?" You think for a moment and say, "I would like whole wheat bread, please. It's healthier, right?" Mrs. Davis laughs kindly and says, "Yes, it is. Good choice." She wraps up a beautiful loaf of bread and hands it to you. As you pay, you decide to practice one of your new English sentences. You say, "This is my first time visiting your bakery. It's very lovely." Mrs. Davis smiles warmly and says, "Thank you so much. We've been here for 20 years. I hope you come back often." You thank her and step outside, feeling happy and proud. You already completed 2 of your goals. Now, you walk down the street toward the flower shop that Mrs. Parker told you about yesterday. The flower shop is small and colorful, with beautiful flowers in pots outside the door. You walk in and see a kind-looking woman arranging a bouquet of roses. Her name tag says Miss Green. She looks up and says, "Hello there, welcome to Green's Flower Shop. How can I help you?" You smile and say, "Hello, Miss Green. I'm looking for a small plant to put in my apartment. Could you help me choose one?" Miss Green's eyes sparkle with excitement. She says, "Of course. We have many easy-to-care-for plants. Are you looking for a flowering plant or a green plant?" You think and say, "I would like a green plant, something easy to take care of because I'm not very good with plants." Miss Green laughs softly and says, "No problem. I recommend a pothos plant. They are very strong and need little water." She shows you a beautiful green pothos plant with long, trailing vines. You say, "It looks perfect. I'll take it, please." As she wraps it up for you, you decide to practice another new English sentence. You say, "Your shop is so beautiful. It makes me happy just to look at all the flowers." Miss Green looks very pleased and says, "Thank you. Flowers do make the world a little brighter. I hope your new plant brings you lots of joy." You thank her, pay for the plant, and leave the shop, holding your new green friend carefully. Feeling successful, you walk toward the small park where you first met Mrs. Parker. You sit on a bench and take out your notebook. You start writing about your morning. Today I mailed a letter with Mr. Carter's help, bought fresh bread from Mrs. Davis, and bought a pothos plant from Miss Green. I used polite English phrases and started conversations. Everyone was so kind. I feel more confident with my English. As you sit and write, you see a young man sitting on a nearby bench. He is reading a book and looks friendly. You decide to practice a little more English. You walk over slowly and say, "Excuse me, is that a good book?" The young man looks up and smiles. He says, "Yes, it's very interesting. It's about building good habits." You sit down nearby and say, "I'm trying to build a good habit too. I want to practice English every day." The young man says, "That's a great habit. Practice every day, even a little, and you'll improve a lot." You thank him for the encouragement. His name is Matthew. He tells you that he works at the local library and loves helping people find good books to read. You laugh and say, "Maybe next time I visit the library, I'll ask you for a recommendation." Matthew smiles and says, "Please do. I'll be happy to help." You both talk for a few more minutes about books, good habits, and the best places to study quietly in town. After the friendly conversation, you wave goodbye to Matthew and head home, feeling proud of all the English practice you did today. When you get home, you make yourself a cup of tea, just like yesterday, and sit down with your notebook again. You write more about your new experiences. I spoke to Mr. Carter at the post office, Mrs. Davis at the bakery, Miss Green at the flower shop, and Matthew at the park. Every conversation helped me feel more comfortable and natural speaking English. I learned new words and polite ways to ask for help. You also write down new phrases you practiced today. Could you please tell me what I need to do? It's healthier, right? Your shop is so beautiful. Is that a good book? You realize that practicing English in real-life situations is not only helping your speaking skills but also your writing. Every conversation gives you more words, more ideas, and more confidence. You think about where you can go tomorrow to practice even more. Maybe the local market, the park. The next day, you wake up feeling even more excited. You can feel that your English is getting better because you are speaking to real people, not just studying from a book. You have learned that every simple conversation is a great opportunity to practice. You eat breakfast and plan your new adventure for today. You decide to visit the local market, the bookstore, and maybe even the library where Matthew works. You want to use new English sentences you wrote down in your notebook. You leave your apartment with a big smile. The air is fresh and the sun is shining brightly. You walk toward the market first. The local market is busy today. Many people are walking around looking at fruits, vegetables, and handmade items. There are many small stalls with colorful signs. You take a deep breath and approach a stall where an older man is selling apples, oranges, and bananas. His name tag says Mr. Harris. Mr. Harris smiles and says, "Good morning. How are you today?" You smile back and say, "Good morning, Mr. Harris. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?" He laughs warmly and says, "I'm great, thank you. These apples are very fresh today. Would you like to try one?" You nod and say, "Yes, please. I would like to buy some apples. How much are they?" Mr. Harris says, "They are $2 a pound." You think for a moment and say, "I will take 2 pounds, please." Mr. Harris puts the apples in a bag and hands them to you. You pay and say, "Thank you very much. Your apples look delicious." Mr. Harris says, "Thank you. I hope you enjoy them. Have a great day." You feel proud as you walk away, eating a juicy apple. You write in your mind, "Today I practiced asking for prices and buying fruit." Next, you head toward the bookstore. The bookstore is a cozy place, with big windows and wooden shelves full of books. Inside, you see a young woman arranging books on a table. Her name tag says Emily. She looks up and says, "Hello. Welcome to Bright Books. Let me know if you need any help." You smile and say, "Hello, Emily. I'm looking for a simple English book to practice reading. Can you recommend one? Emily smiles and says, Of course, we have a special section for English learners. Follow me. You walk together to a small corner filled with easy English books. Emily picks up a book and says, This one is very popular. It has short stories and simple vocabulary. You take the book and say, Thank you. It looks perfect. I'm trying to read a little every day to improve. Emily says, That's a wonderful idea. Reading will help you a lot. You pay for the book and say, Thank you, Emily. I will come back soon for more books. She smiles and says, We'll be happy to see you again. Feeling happy, you leave the bookstore and walk toward the library. The library is a quiet place with big glass doors and a green garden outside. You walk in and see Matthew behind the desk, organizing some papers. He sees you and waves. Hello again, Matthew says. Good to see you. Did you find a good book today? You walk over and say, Hello, Matthew. Yes, I just bought a simple English book. I want to practice reading more. Matthew says, That's great. We also have free English conversation groups here every Friday. You should join us. Your eyes light up. You say, Really? That sounds amazing. I would love to join. Matthew gives you a small paper with the time and place for the conversation group. He says, It's very relaxed. We just sit, talk, and practice. Everyone is friendly. You say, Thank you so much, Matthew. I will come this Friday. Matthew smiles and says, I'll be there too. See you then. You leave the library feeling full of hope and excitement. Now you have a new plan to practice even more with other people. As you walk home, you decide to stop by a small cafe to rest. The cafe is simple, with a few tables outside. You sit down, and a friendly young man named William comes to take your order. Good afternoon. What can I get for you today? William says. You smile and say, Good afternoon, William. I would like a cup of tea, please. William says, Of course. Would you like anything to eat with it? We have fresh sandwiches and cookies. You think and say, I would like a small sandwich, please. William nods and says, Coming right up. You wait for your tea and sandwich. You take out your notebook and write, Today I bought apples from Mr. Harris, a book from Emily, talked with Matthew about the conversation group, and ordered tea from William. I used polite English sentences and listened carefully. William comes back with your tea and sandwich. You say, Thank you, William. Everything looks delicious. He smiles and says, Enjoy your meal. While you eat, you listen to the people around, you speaking English. Some are talking about their day. Others are laughing about a funny moment. You realize that by listening carefully, you can learn even more natural English. You finish your tea and sandwich, thank William again, and walk home with a big smile. As you walk, you practice saying some sentences in your mind. I would like to buy. Could you recommend? That sounds amazing. See you then. At home, you sit at your desk and write about your day. You also practice writing short sentences about what you did and how you felt. Writing after listening and speaking helps you remember the new words better. You realize something important. Every little step is helping you become more fluent. Every small conversation is making your English stronger. Every smile you give and every polite word you say is opening new doors for you. You start making a list for tomorrow. Visit the local park and talk to someone walking their dog. Go to the grocery store and ask for help finding something. Maybe visit the library again and meet some people from the English group. Practice writing about every new experience. You look out the window at the beautiful sunset and feel proud. English is becoming a part of your everyday life. You are not just studying English, you are living in English.